Well, Prince Andrew, the Queen's son, has finally kind of admitted that he was a pedophile. He was involved with trafficking of the young women, the young girls, with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And of course, he's not going to say it outright because he's very prideful and he hides behind all of the armory, the big hats, the buttons on his chest, and the things on his sleeves to say, I'm a great person. But he's really not. He was, in with the pedophile group, the rapists. So he put out something today because he was getting close to the time when he was going to have a deposition, and they were going to start digging into his history. And there was the potential, although very slight, that the girls, his daughters, might be drug in for depositions because he used going to a party for one of the girls as part of a reason why he could not have been involved with the photograph taken with Ghislaine Maxwell and Virginia Guthrie. So they potentially could have been drug in, but they were kids, and more than likely somebody else would have had to corroborate his schedule at that time. But he didn't want to drag in his family. The Queen's platinum anniversary is coming up, and they didn't want this hanging over their heads, and that deposition was going to be taken at the time of the anniversary celebrations. So he caved, pressured by his brother Charles, who's going to be the next king, and he put out a statement. And I'm going to read the text of the statement that came out. He says he did not claim, he did not plead guilty, but in effect he did plead guilty. So it states, Virginia Guthrie and Prince Andrew have reached an out-of-court settlement. The parties will file a stipulated dismissal upon Miss Guthrie's receipt of the settlement, the sum of which is not being disclosed. In the article, it did say that it's about $10 million, and it's based on him selling his chalet, which I think is in the process of selling, but the sale is not complete, so this could potentially all fall through if he doesn't have enough money. The article goes on. Prince Andrew intends to make a substantial donation to Miss Guthrie's charity in support of victims' rights. Prince Andrew has never intended to malign Miss Guthrie's character, and he accepts that she has suffered both an established victim of abuse and as a result of unfair public attacks. Well, yes, he was attacking her character. He was saying she was lying. He was saying that the picture she had of her with him was Photoshop, that he wasn't really there. And so he was in all kinds of ways calling her a liar and saying that she was only a prostitute and she wanted the money, and that she was recruiting girls for prostitution, so she would have been as guilty as Epstein. And he went on and on and on. So now he's saying he's sorry for all of the damage he's caused to her character as a victim and as a result of unfair public attacks. You can never take that stuff back, but that's what he says. It goes on. It is known that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked countless young girls over many years. And notice the prince keeps his name out of that, although he did work with girls in England. And it goes on. Prince Andrew regrets his association with Epstein and commends the bravery of Miss Guthrie and other survivors in standing up for themselves and others. He pledges to demonstrate his regret for his association with Epstein by supporting the fight against the evils of sex trafficking and by supporting its victims. So that's the end of the statement, but boy, what a supporter that is. But he has helped save the Queen and the royal family from more embarrassment. They say he probably won't get back into the good graces, but as long as the Queen's alive, she will push him right back up there. She is a stage mother, and she will have him right back up there doing as many things as possible. It will be notable that he probably won't be having all of that decorative, symbolic stuff on his coats and so forth as he usually did. But that'll be interesting to see when he's taking the family picture, whether or not he's going to wear that stuff or not. The lawyers for both sides say they expect a full dismissal request in about a month, and that's going to be, of course, determined by what happens with his selling his chalet property. So he will not have a civil case to go to trial, and he will not be questioned under oath by Miss Guthrie's lawyers. Buckingham Palace did not make a comment about what was done today, and the Queen's Jubilee celebrations, which will take place in May and June of this year, were not discussed, as well as the services for the late Prince Philip. They were not discussed either. Attorney Lisa Bloom was representing 8 Epstein victims, and she said the news was a victory for Miss Guthrie. Tweeting on behalf of the 8 that she represents, she said, "We hail Virginia's victory today. She has accomplished what no one else could, getting Prince Andrew to stop his nonsense and side with sexual abuse victims. We salute Virginia's stunning courage." Ms. Guthrie's lawyer said, "As a managing partner at a firm that has from its beginning acted upon the belief that the law should be marshaled to bring justice to the most vulnerable, I can say without hesitation that our representation of survivors upholds that tradition. I am very pleased with the resolution of Virginia Guthrie's litigation against Prince Andrew." And then, of course, there were going to be attorney's fees and all that other stuff, court fees that will be assessed. So it's unknown exactly how much all of this will come out to be. A source at Buckingham Palace said, "I'm sure that Charles has had enough and blown a gasket. Charles would have said to him that he needed to get this sorted out as soon as possible, and before the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations begin. Charles did not want this hanging over the royal family this year." Emily Baker, the Los Angeles County attorney, told Mail Online the settlement would be at least 7 figures and sizable. And a London attorney who deals with criminal law said it was not surprising Andrew had settled because the BBC interview had provided such a wealth of material to use in cross-examination. And I didn't see that interview, but I heard it was absolutely horrendous. And I will plan to see it sometime in the future. The lawyer for the Queen, or the former lawyer for the Queen, said, "Where's the money coming from? Your guess is as good as mine," he said. "From the Bank of Mummy? Pure speculation. It's not just the settlement, but the legal fees as well." Another person said, "Hard to see how Prince Andrew will ever clear his name in the court of public opinion. Now he's settled and presumably paid huge money to Miss Guthrie. He said he'd cooperate with the FBI. He didn't. He said he'd fight Virginia in court. He didn't. What is he hiding?" And an author who follows the royal family told the news, "I think it sounds remarkably humble, which is not something we expect from Prince Andrew. Now why that is, I'm not sure. I wonder if the Queen, now she's well, gave him a stern talking to and said, 'You're not going to spoil my platinum jubilee. I'm the only person who ever reached this, and you just got to sort it out. She's the only one, I think, who should really give him a telling off. She's very matronly with him, and perhaps he decided that. But that is great relief, I think, because it would have rumbled on, and that would have taken the headlines all the time, and goodness knows what could have come out of the other end. So that looks like one problem for the royal family that is headed toward a resolution. And they do have other problems, of course, for their platinum jubilee, and remains to be seen how they will settle those problems. Will they be able to coax Meghan into England? And do they want to coax Meghan into England? Because she always becomes the star attraction. You know, news wants to follow royalty, but they always like to follow the younger people. And Meghan would be one of those people that the news media might become too absorbed with. And a contrast in the relationship between Meghan and Catherine in their relationships to the Queen would, of course, be hot topics for the media, and that would be a negative for the Jubilee. What about the other victims? Well, it doesn't say. Of course, Andrew claims he did not plead guilty, but he certainly has enough evidence against him to make it look like he pleaded guilty and just wanted to get this off. So might it make it easier for the other victims to get some sort of settlement too? And with Andrew being tossed out of the royal line and away from the Queen's money, will he have enough money to settle with the other 8 people who are complaining about abuse by Epstein? Of course, not all of them were assaulted by Andrew, and maybe she was the only one who's coming forward who was assaulted by Andrew. But all of that remains unknown, and we'll just follow it in the future. But congratulations, Virginia. Maybe this is over. And what about all of those porno films and pictures Andrew probably has stored somewhere in his belongings? Shouldn't they also be given up so that he can't blackmail the girls in the future? I am told that if all of this is indeed settled, Miss Guthrie has agreed not to discuss the case or the settlement during the Queen's Jubilee.